Today we're sat with Arthur France MBE from Leeds Carnival. Thank you very much for joining us today. And I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started getting involved in Carnival.
One of the interesting things that in my life, I was very lucky and fortunate to be born in Nevis in the Caribbean and grew up in Nevis, went to school. And as an African, I've always maintained I'm an African born in the Caribbean. My parents were very supportive, and I could remember at the age of around 5 years, the masquerade was dancing in the street, coming up to my village, in my village. And I remember going down to meet them, putting on to my mother's dress. And I was very, you can imagine the excitement from that first vision and understood what it meant. And it got in my head and never leave my mind. As a child, I was not allowed to take part, but I was able to look at it. And then we came to England, and in 1957, you understand, we was dotted all over the place from different parts of the Caribbean and different islands, and so we used to get together, and we will have the parties like a wedding, a christening, and like New Year's Eve, Easter Monday, with August Monday, Monday, and that was it. And I felt we was fragmented, and I wanted to bring us together in a festival that you don't need an invite. And the best thing was Carnival. And because I'm very passionate about Africa and the history of Africa, and Carnival for me is a celebration of emancipation. And for these are the reasons I'm very, especially what's happening now, it got me down sometime and I cry regular because it's what's happening, and it's sad that a lot of people don't understand what Carnival is. And that's why you find in Europe, you find Carnival dotted all over the place. And they have lost the momentum because there's no meaning to it. But for me, when I see Carnival, it's a celebration of emancipation. And I want to make sure that in case you don't know, I will tell you. And in case you forget, I will remind you.
And that's really why I'm doing this project. That's the exact reason that I think we are losing the message of why we have Carnival in this country, and it's thought of as a street party instead of what it actually represents. So with doing that, you started, and as I was saying before, I didn't realise that you were actually the first in Europe, that Leeds was the first in Europe. So can you tell a bit about that and how what it was like seeing the rest of the cities kind of joining in with you and actually going down to London and showing them how to do it out on the street? Because from what I heard, London did have something, but it was inside a centre at the same time, but you were the first one outside.
On the street.
Okay.
Well, when I came here, and I felt I always wanted to be part of the Carnival. And first thing I knew, I was politically aware from since in the Caribbean. I didn't come to England to get politics and race in England. I was very much into my head for art. I had an uncle who, Sir Joseph France, was always running civil servants in the Caribbean politician. And so my politics was influenced by him. And I knew my rights. So I remember I was talking to some of my friends, say, we should have Carnival in England. And they were saying, oh, it's a good idea. And some was, it's crazy. It doesn't work. You come here to make us look up for free white man. Anyway, I knew we need an organization behind it. So I've got a brother-in-law and another friend of mine got together and decided to set up an organization. And the organization was called the United Caribbean Association. Because when we had the Federation of the Caribbean, I was very much interested and it broke up and I wanted to, unite us back together. And so back in my mind, I wanted to use the organization without them aware what my motive were. So I went to a meeting with the councils, and so we want to do a carnival in England, and I find it was quite interesting. It sounded quite interesting. And so they were saying, oh, well, we're a different group. I said, no, hang on a minute, you're going too fast. There's something else. As I said, this is something special I want to do. So I knew my rights. So I got the permission from the councillor to use the parks. And then I had to get to the police, so you need the police permission. So I've done all of them myself without anybody else knew. And so I went to a meeting at the United Caribbean Association and suggested we should be doing a carnival. Well, they thought I was crazy and they threw me out of the meeting. And that was a laugh because I'm not one to take no for an answer. And the more you push me back, you're looking for trouble. And so we start preparing and people laughing at us. They didn't know what we were doing. So we've been in this thing in people's houses and putting things together and getting material and put together. And while we're putting things together, we heard they had a gentleman by the name of Clyde Allen from Trinidad who used to work on Timepiece television. So we wanted, God, you look at the youngsters who are crazy anyway. People see us. And we want to put some prestige behind it. So funny enough, we found the television station and he was there. And it was very interesting to hear what he was saying and he was so excited. Yeah, come, I want somebody to present this show. And then Ian Charles, one of my mates, he had a cousin who used to work for Trinidad High Commissioner. And he was up in Scotland doing some work and passing back to Leeds, and he came in his house making these costumes. And then we needed somebody to judge the Steelman competition. And so there's a gentleman in London by the name of Junior Telfer. So we invite him up to judge the Steelman competition. And so the news went back to London, that the carnival in Leeds. So they invite us down to London. On a Sunday, it was rain the whole week and flood as well. It was a lady, an Irish lady who used to run a project in Notting Hill Gate named Back a Yard, and invited us down there on the Sunday. And thus was the first carnival, 1968, on the streets of London. Then we managed to help promote carnival in other cities. Then we got involved in the Federation of European Carnival. We got very close to the chairman of the Federation of the European Carnival. We got very close and got on good. And he used to invite me over. And so Leeds Carnival has done great things. And in fact, we produce more carnival costume designers than any group anywhere in the country. But we got some excellent designers here in Leeds. And we have, and Leeds is the premier carnival, the authentic carnival. You go around and you cannot make head or tail of what they're doing. I mean, London for me, not to think, but that's just a jamboree. You have, it's so fragmented. Well, Leeds Carnival remain But in me, I'm very passionate about my African heritage, and I want to make sure that people don't forget who we are and where we came from and how we get to where we are. And this is why Leeds Carnival are, because I didn't go into Carnival to make money. Now I get prestige. I went into it because of my African deep-rooted passion and bringing us together. And in fact, I've said that the government should sponsor Carnival because when it comes to race relation, they know they spend millions of pounds and they can't even get 12 people on a table singing from the same hymn sheet. So, you know, this is why, as I say, the Carnival, for me, we have done it, and Leeds West Indian Carnival, when we celebrate 50 years, we had 250,000 people in the streets in Leeds. And the police only had 2 arrests and they were drunk because the people understand what it is, so people expect.
And that's one of the things that I wanted to kind of address with this project, that Carnival had a phrase that was used by from a lady called Denise from Canada, the Toronto Carnival, who said that it's a freedom from diversity. That's what they call it. That's their kind of catchphrase on Carnival, and it's about bringing everybody together. And it's the one place that everybody seems to be welcomed when we're talking about Carnival. So with that in mind, do you do anything with the schools over in Leeds that to get Carnival within the curriculum or to showcase any of the information about Carnival?
This, you know, that's another problem. And as I say, I remember the university in Leeds before, they had some money from the Arts Council, and we work on a project in different schools with them to promote Carnival, you know, but it was funding where the university got to them. But in schools, they've got an art project and they do nothing about it. Because if you look back, some of the best costume designers never study art. I had a friend who studied dental mechanics in Leeds, and eventually he make a living from making costumes.
So on that note, on the costume note and the themes, how, after 50 years, how are you still managing to think up new schemes, new themes, should I say?
After 50 years. But because, as I say, I'm very passionate about my African heritage. And I'm born and grew up in the Caribbean, and I've seen some of the things that happened to us. Now, because of the Floyd death, now you have a whole lot of things coming up. And you're not talking about what happened yesterday, time of 400 years ago. And so every year being out through, and the theme is an African theme. So it's helped you back into your history.
So what is the future for Leeds Carnival now?
Well, the future for Leeds Carnival is such a thing. We have quite a few youngsters, and for me, it's to get people who are not in it for the money. You know, I mean, when you look at Carnival, it's an excuse to get drunk, and people, you must. My daughter, Mahalia, she's very focused, and the money part is nothing to do with it. And that is why, if you look at every carnival in England, every one of them failed. And that's why I was glad when the Arts Council took back the money from some of these groups, when you had down in Bristol. And because people come out in camouflage T-shirt and camouflage military stuff. That's not Carnival. You gotta bring out authentic costumes.
Definitely agree. I agree on that one. It needs to be a bit more authentic. And one thing I wanted to ask you, do you do duvet?
Pardon?
You did a duvet?
Yeah, we were the first one to do duvet Monday morning.
Okay.
We were the first group to do duvet in England. Start 6 o'clock in the morning.
I never knew you did it.
Oh yeah. You
Okay.
get people come all over the country coming to duvet morning because it's very, it's quite an interesting thing, I mean, look, when we celebrate 50 years of Leeds Carnival, the premier of Leeds, the country where I came from, he came over with 40 other people in his entourage to be part of Leeds Carnival.
Wow. Could you tell us a little bit about the meaning of duvet?
Well, duvet is when you burn the cane before you cut the cane, and people come out dressed in whatever. If you're in your night pajamas, and it was a way of something mocking your slave masters and the black people who you so-called the Uncle Toms.
Thank you. Thank you.